for Shawn Walchef today. I'll do my best Walchef impersonation. Today, a little background about me. I'm with EHS Recruiting Company. I'm a partner there. We specialize in hospitality and leadership recruiting nationwide for both restaurants and the hospitality industry. And our topic for today is talent acquisition. So we're going to dive into it with my partner, both in our personal life as well as in business, Lauren Hodges. She's a recruiter with our team and a partner in our office as well. So we have her on to give her expertise since, full disclosure, I am not a recruiter. I am more on our operations marketing side of things. So I talk about things from that perspective a little bit. And Lauren can give us more insights into the recruiting process, how that goes, etc. We have a bunch of folks in our green room that are going to hop on stage with us today and give their insights into their experiences with recruiters, talent acquisition, applying for jobs, the job market today, etc. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So I want to start out with just a quick market recap, what we're seeing in the job market today. For hospitality in particular, it's a little bit of an anomaly as compared to the job market overall. So in California, we're seeing still a very tight labor market, very competitive to find talent still. California is one of the few states nationwide that still hasn't eclipsed pre-pandemic staffing levels in restaurants and hospitality. So that means, several people did leave the market during the lockdowns and all of that. And there's been our share of blips on the radar and occurrences that have happened that have kept things tight in that market. So little background there. Lauren, we're going to talk a little bit about hiring approaches, internal approaches. So can you tell us what the general approach is for a restaurant, whether it's, ranging from a single unit, mid-sized company, larger companies? Can you give us a little background on what restaurants generally do to find talent?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you pointed out something really great there, Ian. It really does just kind of depend on the size of the organization and what their resource channels look like. When you're looking in, the larger organizations, they obviously have more resources to throw at obtaining top talent, whether it's having their own talent acquisition teams. Employer branding and marketing really helps drive people to their website more than maybe a mom and pop that doesn't have those resources. They can afford more targeted spending. Now, that doesn't mean that they're immune to quality issues, but they have more resources and a little bit more outreach. So, for a firm like EHS, we actually do like to work with the mid-sized companies or even the smaller operators. I feel like when you have a smaller operator that's looking to expand their, you know, their hiring practices, they do need a little bit more help because they are still so time starved deeply in the day-to-day operations. And so you can do so much to go out there word of mouth, drive people to your place of business, but they don't have the reach that talent acquisition companies like us tend to have. So really, there's a lot of smart operators out there that are partnering with talent acquisition agencies and third-party recruiting agencies, headhunting firms, however you want to refer to them as. So I feel like, aside from the job boards that they can, throw an ad at, they're still not always getting the quality that they're looking for.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple times job boards. Is that primarily how these companies find people, is by posting ads, whether it's on their website or something like Indeed?
Yeah, Indeed's a really popular one. Obviously, there's ZipRecruiter. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource, especially for higher level, usually above store level candidates like director of operations, VP level candidates. Indeed, I really do see a lot of companies using that for more of their store level talent. So it really does depend on the platform.
Okay. And then, a lot of companies, obviously, they want to keep things in-house. They want to limit the amount of, resources they're dedicating to hiring efforts. Um, you know, what do you say to people that think of recruiters as an expense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there is an added expense to using any type of recruitment agency, but I think that anybody, especially in that, small to mid-sized company range, is going to say they don't have the time to sit down and sift through tons of resumes to find the person that they're looking for. So we add value by saving the most expensive commodity that we spend every day that we don't get back, and that's time. This is what we do for our whole job. This is what we do, 5, 6, 7 days a week, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Operators have to do their day to day, taking care of their staff, taking care of their vendors, taking care of their guests, the most important. When do you find time to really divvy into going into those job boards and deciphering who is going to be the best candidate for what their current needs are? They can just call us up and say, hey, this is what we need, and we can laser focus for them.
Awesome, awesome. So sounded like the difference is primarily between operators and an agency or a talent acquisition approach is how proactive they're being and going to find people. So that gives us a little insight there. Um, why do so being matchmakers in the industry? I know you've used that term a lot when we talk. What strategy do you advise people on using, in those smaller markets that they can do along with or instead of bringing on a recruiter? What would help them? What are a few tips you would give operators today?
I mean, obviously, I would want them to, work on some of their outreach approach. The job boards are wonderful. Honestly, you do find a lot of great talent on the job boards, especially depending on the role that you're looking for. But other ways to really diversify that are incentives to your current staff. Maybe you have two locations, for example, and you need a GM at that new location that's opening up. You can ask your staff at location number one and say, hey, I'll give you a $300 or $500 referral on your next check if you find me this person. That's a really great outreach approach. A company that I worked with in operations prior to becoming a recruiter full time did that in Scottsdale, and they saw a really great turnaround with the referral piece they put into place in their hiring strategies. Networking events are huge. Conferences that you can attend for our industry specifically. Just getting out there and getting to know more people within your community, I think, is going to help as well. I think that we get really stuck in the day to day, and we do need to break away and have some time to do some outreach, expand our horizons, expand our community networking capabilities. Those are some of the things that I tell my smaller operators to really start with, especially if they are truly on the fence. Most recruiting agencies aren't looking to, take a check from you. They really are invested in making sure that you're expanding, strategically.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know not everyone on the call today has probably worked with a recruiter directly, but most people have applied for jobs. So why don't we bring the rest of the folks on screen from the green room today, and let's talk a little bit about any experiences you've had in applying for jobs, hiring, whatever your experience has been on the job market, working with recruiters in any capacity. If you have a fun story, feel free to share it. All right. All right. Richard Liverman, why don't you kick us off today? Have you worked with any recruiters? Have you done any branding for recruiters? What can you tell us about the job market and your experience?
Hi, good evening. It's a really interesting one because recruiters and realtors often get put in the same bracket as evil and irritating and just bad. However, you find a good one and they can be amazing both as a candidate and as an employee, as an employer, sorry. And I think it's the same with realtors or estate agents, as we call them in the UK. There's one for your UK-US difference. And I think as a homeowner and somebody that's buying houses, it's very similar. What you want is somebody that's got your back. And I think what's really interesting is when recruitment's done right, it feels like a joined up process. And I think there's that little bit where almost like picking somebody, if you're as a hiring person, you almost need to find somebody that is willing to build that relationship and understand you and doesn't just treat you as a number. And that's why I use the comparison of estate agents or realtors. And I think it's really interesting having been both sides of the process of both hiring and being hired. And you just sometimes you're like, why am I here? Or why is this person here? But when you find that really great person that goes, try this person, you're like, where did you find this? And I think for me, there's that little bit where, how do you find the right people to work with? And I guess one of the questions I've got to your team, Ian, which is almost how, as a hiring agent or how, as an employer, can you get the most out of the relationship and make sure that you get the right people in front of you? How do you get the most out of the relationship? Because I think it's very easy to criticize that community, because as you well know, there are lots of people that do it very badly. But for the ones that do it well, you know, almost how do you get the most out of that relationship to make sure that you get the best people? It's something I've discussed with Scott a lot. How do you be a good guest? And I think it's a question, how do we be a good client to you guys?
Absolutely. It's really interesting because there are so many points of criticism in this industry, as you pointed out, right? I mean, I've even been on the receiving end of it where I've had clients tell me they weren't necessarily 150% happy with the search that I conducted for them, which is hard to admit. But what it really all comes back to is the communication piece. And I know that sounds oversimplified, but you know, an agency like mine, think of us, as you pointed out, you know, real estate agents. We are a recruiting agent. So kind of like the Jerry Maguires, help me help you. If I ever, for example, get somebody that's starting a search with me and they tell me they're looking for a unicorn, my heart drops into my stomach, because it's like, well, we all know unicorns don't exist. So define what the unicorn looks like to you. Give me the things that this person absolutely needs to come to the table with. And those are the people I'll submit. And then I'll have your nice haves in the background. But I think we get really lost in the process that since this is an outside or an added investment, that this one candidate that's going to fill this job has to check these imaginary 100 boxes. And that's just not realistic. We're all human. We all have flaws. But if you can tell me the skill sets that you need for this particular location, you know, even if it's within the same organization, they have 10, you know, burger joints, but this general manager at this location really needs more profit and loss exposure and handling of inventory, whereas this general manager at this location needs more front-facing guest service initiatives. As long as I have that information up front where we can define the parameters early on, we shouldn't have an issue filling these positions.
Yeah, I really like that. I think there is that bit where I've worked with clients, and I like that you're looking for a unicorn. The only place to find a unicorn is on Elizabeth's social media.
Hey, there you go.
And you will find some on there, and they're sort of really cool. But I think there is that little bit where I think it's really interesting. You can have really high expectations. But if you're paying a salary of, I don't know, 20, 30 grand, and you kind of want in all of that, I think there's that little bit of realism. But I do like the idea of that kind of like managing your own expectations. But you can still have high standards and manage your expectations. And I think it's really interesting that certainly some of the clients I've worked with want the moon on the stick in terms of the people that they're going to hire. And then there's also, so many questions. I'm going to sneak another one in before Elizabeth shouts at me. There's always that risk that you found that great candidate, and especially in small business, let's say the large businesses, but say a small business of under 50, where you get that bad apple and you can smell them out, you know, within a few weeks. And there's always that fear, because if you get rid of that person, not only have you spent money on hiring them and the hiring process, but also the training and the training up. Like, what's your view of getting rid of somebody very, very quickly. I think, is it Christo sort of says, hire and fire fast.
Yeah.
And I know it's easier to do in the States than it is in the UK. We've got a few more laws and stuff.
Maybe.
You know, rightly or wrongly, I'll let other people decide. But the point is, if you do that, how do you go back to the recruiter and be like, right, well, we've just dropped $5,000 with you. We need to hire somebody for exactly the same role because the previous person was a bit crap. What's your kind of help me with this so I can help my clients in the Jerry Maguire sense?
Yes, absolutely. And it is interesting because this happens a lot, especially in our industry, hospitality. We're all people forward. We are, you know, so many walks of life interacting with one another. And sometimes it could be that the candidate's just not a great candidate, or it's just not a cultural fit. There are so many reasons this could have went wrong. Most agencies, including ours, do have a safeguard in place. So you can vet and qualify this person, and they are rock star in interview process. The client falls in love with them, and it's like, great, let's hire this person. But yeah, like you said, a couple weeks in, it's like, oh, they're showing up late to work. They're not really doing the job that we hired them to do. They're clocking out early, whatever the case may be.
Or they're a Leeds United fan. Real bad things.
Yeah. And so we do offer a one-time replacement guarantee during a period of time. That first, 60 to 90 days, depending on what parameters we have set up with our client, is crucial. And even though we don't usually like to go beyond that because we're in the direct hire business, meaning that it's also up to the client to maintain that relationship with their new hire and make sure they're providing them the proper training, the proper support to get them integrated into their systems. Things happen, doesn't always work out. So we will do a one-time replacement. And then if that person happens to not make it, then, not that I like to point fingers, but I might go back to the client and be like, talk to me about your current staff. And that's even something I like to do in my discovery when I'm doing an intake. Talk to me about your current staff, because if I know that you have, servers that have been there for 15, 20 years, and they're going to haze the new manager a little bit, it's good to know that up front so I can vet my candidates on that. And I can decipher pretty quickly, okay, this candidate's a little more sensitive. It might not work out. This candidate has a lot more thick skin and has done this time and time again. I'm going to highlight this person. So it really is all about that tailored approach. Yeah.
I think that, short period warranty is really good. I think good recruiters do that. It's nice that you do. But I also like what you were mentioning there, the need to go back sometimes to the client, because it's been my experience that sometimes working with clients have a difference between expectations and how they verbalize that and then their own actual reality. They're their own worst enemy. So recruiters are running in circles saying, I've got the profile you developed. Love the profile we developed together. We're sending you good people. And there's a disconnect because, after they get in and you like them, you no longer like them. And a lot of times you're right, there's something on the client side, but I've always had a very high respect for people in the recruitment profession, because it's almost like you've got to have a high level of respectability on one side and live by being a professional poacher on the other, because that's what we pay you for. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's what we do. No one wants to know that if they create a good culture and they're multiple units, that they're growing bench strength that might get roped by one of you professionals and taken to another team. Yeah. But it's a reality we live with, because that's what you do. I mean, the best people are typically the people who are working. So, if to Richard's earlier point, I think where recruiters sometimes might have a bad taste in some people's mouths, it's because they have this opinion that a recruiter is just sitting at home, looking at all the stuff that they could do themselves, finding resumes out there, downloading Monster, and sending you a bunch of people who are unemployed, hoping that 1 out of the 20 you'll like, and then they can make a fee. Well, that's not really what you're supposed to do, I know. But if you do what you're supposed to do, and you create a really good profile, that person's probably working somewhere. He or she just doesn't know that the next step on their career ladder is to leave XYZ firm and go head up, this firm.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think working with an expert, and I think that's where the real cream rises. And what's really interesting, when I've worked with really great people in that field, you go back to them over and over again. And I think what's really interesting, and that's why I think it was right to attack the industry, but also to praise it, because the really good ones rise and stand out. And I think that point you make there, Chris, is absolutely spot on, because you go hunting for talent.
Right.
And that must, from Lauren and Ian's perspective, that must be quite exciting to do.
It's very exciting. It is. I would have to say, with all the great technology at our fingertips and all the job boards, they're all great resources to have, because you will find, a diamond out there every once in a while. But recruiting fundamentally has not changed in decades. It's about leveraging your connections. It's about knowing your community, knowing where the top players are working, and keeping strong relationships with them. Because even though you may not place them today, you might place them in 2 years from now. But you make a point to visit them, shoot them a text, call them, if they're working the restaurant, go in and see them on a brunch Sunday where they're maybe fed up and that's their 7th Sunday brunch in a row, and they're supposed to have it last week off with their kid, and they're like, you know what, I'm really ready to start looking. And then you're like, boom, there's your pain point.
And
so sometimes it's waiting that out.
And sometimes we help you. Sometimes the industry helps you get those right people ripe to leave by failing ourselves. I had a situation like with this recently with a guy, a great guy, 4 units. I love him to death, but sometimes he's a little soft on the side of his management, his managing of managers. And I've found over my years that there's nothing worse for good managers to see you tolerate one who isn't. So we're feeding the recruitment pool if we're not quick to say retrain, or if they fail, replace, because the good producers out there don't want to be connected to a company that's carrying, the poor performing thugs. So even though he's a really good feeling owner, I was telling him he was damaging his brand by carrying this thoughtless thug that he thought he was going to mold into a leader. And in the meantime, we lost a couple leaders thinking this company's no longer the edgy progressive place that it once was. So that was a recruiter field day. It was just wheel them in, bingo, 2 guys are gone. And, and now he's left with Petsamundo, and we're out there hiring.
Absolutely. It is, I think that a lot of what we do as recruiters is we're, to a point, we're also, not to, put myself up on this pedestal with these lovely people, but we're therapists in a way too, to our clients, because we not only have to be there and hear them out and their issues, we also have to have thick skin with them too, and just be really honest with them about what we see in their operating practices that are hurting them as well, because that keeps our relationship strategical. And it's up to them if they listen or not, right, Chris? I mean, you can say it till the cows come home, till you're blue in the face, but if they, don't listen to it, they're just going to keep making those same mistakes over and over again. And sometimes it is great for recruiters. It's like, okay, I know that this place is, has some really great people in play, and they're not elevating them, empowering them to move up, the ladder, or they're doing a bunch of external hirings when they have a lot of great potential on their bench, So there's a lot of ways that this industry can be its own enemy. So,
well, we got a little ahead of ourselves. Everyone is so eager to dive into the topic that no one introduced themselves or told us what they were building. So, Chris, why don't you give us what you're building and what you do?
Excellent. Okay, sure. I am Chris Tripoli. I am with the Restaurant Clinic. The Restaurant Clinic is a small restaurant advisory firm. We work with growing companies on management development. We work with owners and improving operational performance and that kind of thing. I'm doing a little bit of that while I'm still doing my education through restaurantowner.com, which is just too much fun. I'm creating content there for small restaurant operators, do-it-yourselfers, for systems improvements, and webinars, and I continue to host Corner Booth, which is the restaurantowner.com's podcast. So this is all being done while I'm building my retirement model, because I'm really not working that much. I sold my own restaurant development company and my follow-up consulting company to retire. So this that I'm doing with the restaurant clinic and with the restaurant owner.com is sort of to keep the foot in the water, to keep abreast of things, have fun, while I'm working on my retirement model that I haven't really quite figured out. But this is the year to build that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Awesome.
It's so nice
Well,
to chat with you.
let's kick it over to Elizabeth Doss. Give us a little bit about your experiences in, any type of a job search, and tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're building.
Yes. So as far as the job search side of things, I have been blessed, and also, I'm not going to say cursed. I will not receive that. But as far as working for myself for many years now, and other faculty, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with recruiting, et cetera. I do have a story that I am going to tell. First off, I'm going to tell you one story. You're going to laugh. Richard, you're really going to laugh at this one. My very first job, I was a summer intern for an engineering firm. And I was doing paperwork, and I was in a cubicle, and I was dying.
Really?
But the first day,
Did you get
yes,
fired?
when they did,
Did they fire you?
I wanted to.
They fired you, didn't they? They did.
Almost.
They must have done.
No, I did get yelled at a lot. But here's one reason why. Okay, they give you when the day I went for my interview, I had like worked myself up, like I was like going to be clear, direct, all those things, but they gave a personality test on the first day. And then when I got the job, they print your personality color type on your badge so people know how to interact with you. Well, the way that the mode I was in on day one was not the mode that I'm in most of the time. So I spent a lot of that summer crying because people thought that they had to speak to me directly, and that I was this type A personality, which I am not. And it was a lot of us. I didn't get to draw unicorns at all that summer. So back to your other point. Okay, that's beside the point. So you can talk about that amongst yourselves if you want. But no, the thing I was thinking about, and I do have a question for you guys. I have a point to my story. But my sister has been a hospitality manager for 25 plus years. My parents were out to dinner, and it was this it was an okay restaurant. And I wasn't anything super fancy, but their waitress, they absolutely fell in love with. Her performance, the way that she treated them. So my parents called my sister and said, "You need to recruit this girl out of this hole in the wall." And because my sister worked at a upscale restaurant in downtown, and so I remember her contacting her, interviewing her, and getting her on as a position. And now she's a manager at the restaurant. And so it changed her life completely. This random interaction with my parents, seeing the skill that she had in this lesser place, introducing her to someone that could change her life. And so my question to the both of you is, what's been the most rewarding placement that you've done where you know that someone's life has completely changed in that placement? If you have any stories like that, I'll hand it back. Oh, really quick. I'm Elizabeth Doss. I make gifts and I help people with social media on the internet. That's what I do. Back to you, Ian.
I'll let you take that one, Lauren.
I have made so many placements over the years, and it's, I think my most favorite placement was actually recently. She was living in Colorado, but she had a primary residence in Arizona. She was worried about getting back into the job hunt because she felt she was aged out of the industry. And that's a thing, that's a whole other topic for a whole other day about ageism and all that good stuff. We won't open that can of worms, but I assured her that, you know, with her background and her talent, this company that I put her in with is going to want to meet with her. I mean, she has everything they were looking for. And this, you know, this industry that we have worked with, and they value us. They know that we give them good candidates. And she just was one of those nervous Nelly candidates through the whole process. I mean, I probably had multiple calls, text chains with her for, you know, the 2 weeks that it took to put her through process because she was just so nervous. She overthought it a lot. And so I knew the general manager of where she was interviewing. So I just called him up and I said, listen, she's very nervous. Be kind to her. She's great. I leveraged that relationship and just kind of gave him a heads up because the HR person that she interviewed with was a little hesitant to move her forward because she was so nervous in the interview. She kind of choked a little bit, but we smoothed it over. And I was like, you just got to get her in front of people in operations, right? And she ended up having a 3-hour interview, not only with the GM, but the regional that she was, you know, they were hoping to put her in with the following week, just ended up meeting with her and they hired her on the spot. And she called me crying, just thanking me for everything I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is why we do what we do. It's just so phenomenal. And there are so many other stories. That's just one that's really recent, but it's so exciting to get back, you know, full circle, have candidates come back to you when they're ready to look for something again, or they remember their experience with you and they refer you people. I'm working a candidate in Minneapolis right now that was a referral from a candidate I've worked with for over the years. And it's just so rewarding what we do. I could go on for hours.
Well, you know, I'd like to pay a huge compliment to what you guys do in your industry because this is a true story that just happened about a year and a half ago because it was a very odd, unique situation to place. You're all going to want to look up this restaurant called J Bar, B-A-R-M, J Bar M. It's in East downtown Houston. It's a very large place, smokehouse, barbecue, steaks, events, outside patio. It's a combination of 5 or 6 things. What makes this truly unique is that the person who built the building, it's on his family land. He wants to operate it, is a guy I've known for 30 years, successfully talked out of going into the restaurant business at least 3 or 4 times. So he finally did it. And he did it at age 92. So John Toomey is just a very interesting guy. He wanted to open up his own smokehouse. Because he's a very unique person, very successful in other businesses, extreme high net worth, there was multiple reasons to keep him out of the restaurant business. Too much risk and ideas that were extremely passion-led and investments that weren't going to pay off. So it was so now he calls me because he did it. And he had, of course, all the wrong management. So the good news is he's in the business. The bad news is he's in the business. He knew I was retired. I didn't own my company anymore, but come on, it's John Toomey. I've known him forever. I drive to Houston, start working with him. And so it's hard for people in your business, I know, to try to find the right team to work for a place if they know that this might be a unique one-off. I mean, they're going to work for a guy who's in his 90s. What kind of future do they have, really? I mean, let's be honest. Is there going to be expansion? They were all concerned with what happens if one day he doesn't wake up. Do I have a job? Do the kids not want to be in the business? Are the grandkids going to sell the property to become a car dealership? I mean, what's going to happen? So how do you recruit someone for that? Well, the recruitment company that we did use did a very wonderful job. They found a guy who was in a unique situation, privately owned, country club, athletics, event place. He'd gone as far as he could go. Anyway, the two of them are very compatible. And John Toomey now has a hobby. It's passionate. He has the right guy running it. And it's working out quite well. So I didn't know if that was ever going to have a happy ending, but it did. We were able to run off the poor management team, and by him bringing in the right GM, he's happy. And, you know, the place is doing well. He's now 94, and he goes there every day just to walk around, say hello to everybody, have lunch, and then go home to take a nap.
I love
That's
that.
awesome. Thanks for sharing, Chris. Let's move it over to Audrey. If you want to introduce yourself, any experiences you've had in the job market or questions for Lauren and a little about what you do.
Yeah, I've been chomping at the bit. I'm so excited for this topic. I don't know, Ian or Lauren, who convinced Shawn to do this topic today, but thank you. It's long overdue. It needs some conversation in this space. I'm Audrey Hogan. I'm with Timeforge Workforce. We do workforce solutions. So Lauren's out there beating the pavement, trying to find people who want to come work with you. And my software makes the people who already work with you want to stay. And so I tend to preach a little bit more from the culture and, hey, retention side. We can help on the recruiting a little bit, but not to the degree that Lauren does it by any means. This topic's near and dear to my heart. I've been preaching on a soapbox about it all year. I did a podcast with Ink Tank GTM, for anyone who knows Beck, and he cut out one of my clips where, frankly, I'm berating the industry for making Lauren's job so hard, right? Like, as an industry I've been in this industry for, I guess, 2 decades at this point, and people are still saying the same things today, despite all data pointing in the opposite direction. And that's, people are always going to want to work in the industry. We don't have to recruit. We don't have to market ourselves. There's always going to be people who want to work in restaurants. And if you look at the data, that's not the case right now. And we're on the precipice of one of the largest job shortages in history coming in 2027. And so as an industry, we need to market ourselves better, first off, not just to our guests, but to people we want to be working in our space. We've too long relied on, hey, I'm going to hire for attitude and aptitude. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. We need to keep doing that. But I'm going to hire for attitude and aptitude, and I'm going to grow them up. Well, right now, we're living in what that means, right? We have all these newbies who can't even smile or greet guests, right?
Yes.
They have no hospitality in their bones. They don't know how to have conversations or really engage with guests. But we hired for attitude and aptitude, right? We just didn't have the internal systems in place to grow them up and coach them and train them to be what we expected 10 years ago when we were hiring for attitude and aptitude, right? And so we have to invest in groups like Lauren, going out, finding those top tier performers who can coach and mentor our entry level folks who we're bringing into this industry fresh. And we also need to focus on our culture and make sure we have a place people want to work. And that's the hard part, frankly. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Thank you. All right.
No, I have to speak to that really quick while it's fresh on my mind, because that ties back into 2 things. Post-COVID was a wild time being a recruiter, because I had candidates with 1 to 2 years of restaurant management experience getting, restaurant manager offers for $80K. Like, what? This is insane. That would never happen today. And it would have never happened in 2019. So there really was a lot of that. We need people, we need bodies. It shined a big bright light on the restaurant and the hospitality industry that we need to stop overworking and underpaying great people. There's a mass exodus in this industry for a reason. And the passionate people like myself and a lot of hoteliers and, restaurant owners that I know, are really trying to find solutions to that. My other business partner, Vanessa, and I just went to the California Lodging and Investment Conference a couple weeks ago that was in Long Beach. And there are a couple of hospitality management companies that are coming up with their own, classrooms on teaching people these hospitality skill sets and getting them certification so they can go get something entry level in hotels, but they have some sort of offshoot of management company training. And I love hearing when people fall into this industry on accident. It's always a great, beautiful thing because I was the same person. But I think we also need to start putting our colleges on a pedestal that have hospitality management programs in place, and really getting back out there and showing the value of how you can make this industry a lifelong career, and you can come and go from it as much as you please. If you choose to leave for a couple of years because you want to start a family, or you want to just try something else out, and you can come back to it, having that existing skill sets to do so is what makes this industry so beautiful. but we need to get people back into it. And you're right, we need to get talented people in place. It's okay to have some of that attitude and aptitude, but it can't be your whole team. You need to have strong people on your team and maybe have one of those in place where you can empower them and bring them up.
Yeah. And no, I think I have two follow-up thoughts, if you don't mind, Lauren. I think we're seeing just in the industry as a whole, we're seeing such a gap in strong mentorship, right?
Yes.
Finding a leader who really has enough mentorship to go around to the team is so hard right now, but it's critical. Like, you've got to find that leader for your stores. And then the other thing that you touched on, Lauren, I've got some pretty compelling data. I'm happy to share if anyone geeks out over this stuff as hard as I do.
I love it.
But I think a lot of, especially the SMB groups that I speak with, are they have this mindset of like, oh, well, I can't compete on wage, so I'm out of the game. We're just gonna die. Like, it's like, and that's not how it has to be. There's so many other things that maybe not at the leadership level, but for servers, for bussers, for everyone else in store, there's so many other things that make you a more competitive employer than wage. So there's some fascinating statistics I have to share because they're game changers for your perspective on this problem in your organization. So I partnered up with CBS North Star to do an industry study, and we asked every department in thousands of restaurants what their top priority for 2025 was. And every single department except IT is centered on workforce, recruiting, and optimization. That's never happened. In the last 2 decades I've been in this space, that finance has never been like, you know what we need to do? We need to invest in workforce. Like, that's never been a thing. And so the entire organization is centered on this problem, and now is the time to solve it, because we're not going to have this alignment across all the departments for very long. The other fascinating statistic, like I said, there's lots of other things that are competitive about your business, because you're not just competing against restaurants for talent. You're competing against convenience stores, grocery, general retail. And so you have to pay attention to what those businesses and those other verticals are marketing and how you can position yourself to compete for talent. And there's some top things. This is a cheat code I'm going to share with you. Earned wage access. 72% of hourly job seekers in 2024 said they would not apply to a job posting unless it advertised earned wage access. So if you're not offering earned wage access, you're scooping up less than 30% of available applicants. And those are the not smart applicants, because the smart applicants want earned wage access. So you're getting the bottom of the barrel. So that's a shameless plug, but I've got the data to back it up.
Hey, that's a good plug. That's not shameless at all. That's just necessity. People need to know it.
The other things that our industry offers that those others can't to the same degree, the predictability and flexibility. If you're still scheduling on Sunday night for Monday morning, I guarantee you're not getting the candidates that you should.
Yep.
Upskilling and career pathing is something this industry historically sucks at.
Yep.
But there's no reason to. Right now, there's so many tools available to you. You can absolutely, when you're bringing a new candidate in, go, hey, within 6 months, if you check these 3 boxes, you're going to get a bonus, you're going to get a raise, and we're going to put you on this manager and training program. And the incoming younger generations that don't have those people skills are craving that. They want a checklist. They are checkbox people, and they want to know specifically what they have to do to thrive in your organization. If you're not telling them, it's just guesswork, they're going to leave.
100% the truth. And they wonder why
those are my cheat codes for everybody. All right.
It's just really interesting, Audrey, hearing what you said. And I was talking to somebody in Silicon Valley a couple of years back, and what they were saying was really interesting, that if you're Google, Apple, Cisco, not the guy that did the song, the IT company, if you're those big companies, you're fighting for the same brain pool that are leaving the big colleges. And what's really interesting, the salary's the same, the benefits are the same, the crappy amount of holiday you American guys get is the same. and all those kind of random President Day things. It's all the same. So what do you compete on? And I think there's a little bit where they compete on CSR, culture, and all those other things. And I think as an industry, the hospitality industry, which we all know is amazing, you have to think about, and you were really interested when you said, well, actually, the hospitality, you're also competing against grocery and all those other things. And I firmly believe that example of Silicon Valley is so relevant to employers. Like, don't just sell the wage, sell the culture, sell like what's it like being here. Then all of a sudden you're giving the candidate like a little peek behind the scenes before they get, and then you avoid what we were talking about earlier, getting the wrong person. And I often talk all the time, what can we learn from big brands? Well, if Google and Apple are competing not on money, but on those other factors, then how, as a restaurant operator with multiple sites, what can you learn from Google? Well, there you go.
No, I'll share one more tip because Richard, I think you'll enjoy it. If we can get a little interactive, and then I'll shut up. What do you guys think? So we already talked about how important earned wage access is. Thinking about as an hourly job seeker, right? You're looking for shift work employment. What is the number one most important criteria you're looking for?
Not to have Michael from The Office as my boss.
That's important. The number one, proximity. How close is it to where I work? How close is it to where I live? Number one is proximity. That's more important than wage. So if you're not marketing to people who live close to you, you're failing.
So simple.
Well, I think that really makes great sense, because what we've learned over the years, which I guess would encompass proximity, is that restaurants are telling us now that they're having much more success approaching potential employees, interviewing potential employees, more from a presentation, not a Q&A, not a if you're qualified or not, but more of a conversation about what's important to them and how does this particular job fit that? Because we're learning that people aren't just looking for a job, they're looking for a place. They want to fit. Like, is it convenient? Is it close? Will I fit in here? Do I feel good here? Will I feel listened? Will I feel important? Will I like the people here? Will the people like me here? And then all the way down the list is, oh, by the way, what am I getting paid? It's like not like the old days where we felt like, look, I'm offering you a job, you're going to make this money. Yes or no, start Friday.
Definitely. Well, let's kick it over to one of our Friday hosts, Laura. Give us 60 seconds what you're working on, and you're going to be hosting with Jason on Friday, discussing mind mapping.
Yes. Thank you. So great to see you. Thank you for this conversation today. I don't have a lot to add to it because I'm not, in the hiring position. I'm an individual contributor as part of a team. So I believe showing up is 80% of success. And when we show up consistently, we're unstoppable as a team for sure. And I'm in the business of showing up for my restaurant clients and bringing friends. And by friends, I mean 21 million expense account diners who are traveling for business, absolutely need great restaurants to dine in at, do carry out from, order catering from, and in some cases book private events. So that's really what I'm building, is our network of fantastic restaurants. We have about 25,000 of them and growing in the US and Canada. And I have a meeting today with a really great brand that I'm so excited about. And I was prepping for that prior to joining you all, but I was listening, just not on camera. But yeah, I'm really just here to learn and listen, because obviously our restaurant partners, having great people working, having a great culture is so important overall to all of our experiences as a guest. And so anything I can learn, anyone I can refer them to as far as helping them. And I hear a lot that the middle manager or general manager position is the toughest for them to attract and retain. And so whatever I can take back to our restaurant partners that can help them solve that problem, I'm all ears.
again,
Awesome. Thanks,
yeah.
Laura.
Can I answer that really
Lauren,
quick? Just one really quick
Yeah,
idea.
go for it.
Something that Audrey kind of just glanced over was that if you have a program in place where you're training people, I think that we have a lot of internal talent that is being underutilized. They're shy. They want to evolve in the company, but they don't know necessarily how to do that. More companies need to have more restaurant groups, hotel groups. They need to have programs in place where people can train to become a restaurant manager, an AGM, a GM. And I think once you tap into that, then you can maybe look at some external sources if you're not really finding that solution or nobody's really stepping up to the task. That's a really big thing. I think you got to look internal. There's a lot of talent there that's underlying. You just got to know where to look, and then leverage your partnerships with external agencies and network.
Thank you. And yes, Audrey, you mentioned mentorship. And if you're not familiar with a couple organizations, volunteer organizations that exist to provide leadership and mentorship for the next generation and kind of the rising leaders in the restaurant space, there are two. One is called the Gleam Network, GLEAM, and they do a 6-month cohort where mentees are paired with mentors. I signed up and I'm hoping I get a mentee, but it's not guaranteed. I think I'll find out this weekend, and it's a kickoff, but it's all based on, a match. Thank you. Love to be a mentor. And the other one is an organization called LEAD, which is affiliated with the Gleam Network. And LEAD exists to just kind of bring the same type of experience that we talk a lot in this group about attending conferences and the value of attending industry conferences, because you get to hear firsthand by some of the most talented folks in our industry, the origin story of their restaurant, how they've grown to great success. But a lot of people working in restaurants in all of our cities just don't have the resources to attend those conferences. They can't get the time off. The conferences are expensive. So the LEAD organization brings those types of talks to restaurants in a handful of cities. So I know that we'll be in Dallas I think it's in August. We're planning something in New York. There's going to be something in Southern California, San Diego, where I live. And the idea is to just get as many people from the restaurants to come and learn and hear from these restaurant leaders. And the cost of the ticket, I think, is $35. And a lot of times it's funded by the restaurant leadership to get their people there for that mentorship.
Laura, you know how much I value mentoring, both for somebody that does it professionally, but also receives it. I think as an industry, when you have those people that have got you back, and I think it goes across all industries, it makes such a difference. And I know that, it's had a big impact on me and what I do and how I do it. And the fact that you're doing that program, I think that you'll be absolutely fabulous. And whoever gets to work with you is going to be very, very lucky. If you want, drop me a WhatsApp. And if you want to just chat over any technical bits and pieces, happy to support. Because I think as an industry, again, if we compare it to the tech sector will look after people and mentor them and coach them. And I think as an industry, hospitality is one of those ones which is often overlooked. You can build an amazing career, but you need those people with the skills and talent, or to quote Pepsi Max from the 1990s, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And for me, that's what, there's so much value in those mentors that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And I think if the hospitality industry brings that mindset into it, it's going to make it a lot easier for people to keep and retain the incredible talent that is in this sector.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. And I will reach out. I'll let you all know if I get paired with a mentee.
That's great.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
I think Richard just touched on
real quick, Chris, before we get rolling. Lauren, I know you have a hard out at 1. Any final tips or anything that you want to leave us with?
I think really just what it boils down to is just keep in communication with all of your networking partners. Keep in communication with your clients. Help me help you. I'm going to go back to my Jerry Maguire and say that. It's so important for us to just stay on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. As Audrey brought up, there's a lot of denial of what's happening within the restaurant hospitality world, and if you have any tie into it directly or indirectly, it's so important to just keep each other apprised of information, being able to network, share data with one another, and help each other grow. I want to see all of you successful in your endeavors, and if there's anything that Ian and I can ever do to help leverage connections that we have to make that happen, we always appreciate the same. So just staying open, and no connection is a waste.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Feel free to hang on as long as you can. There may be some questions or homework things as we go back around. Chris, sorry to interrupt. I'll kick it back over to you for your thought, and then any tips, takeaways, or homework assignments that you have from today's call.
Oh, sure. No problem. Because I think Lauren made an excellent point. I was going to say something maybe a little bit similar, but I think she did it really, really well about the encouragement and the networking. What made me think of that was Richard's point about how other industries, especially tech, operate. And I just think that it's a little known fact, one that maybe we should exploit more in hospitality, that we are a monstrous industry. I mean, just in the States, we're a $1.6 trillion industry. And we're the second largest employer. I mean, there's more people today in this country serving somebody than there is building a house, making a car, drilling for oil. We're monstrous. But we don't want to get lost in our bigness, because although we're a big industry, it's a small world. And when we take the time, it doesn't take more than 10 minutes for someone to know someone who worked with someone who might have a similar experience as someone. So I've always found our industry to be very helpful. When we just ask, we receive. We learn from one another, I guess is my point. So we need to encourage that, because I've seen that, and I've encouraged it with clients. I've encouraged it with clients and purveyor relationships, clients to finance relationships, things that might sound difficult at first. Once they start talking and they find similarities, we overcome our difficulties because we like to learn from one another. So I think that's my takeaway, I guess, from this is that in order for us to maybe do both, and that's to retain our people and provide the culture they need to grow, and not necessarily help the recruitment field by ignoring the good ones, requires time, questions, bonding, engagement. I don't know if we do that well enough. I think with some of the people I'm working with right now, we're not doing that well enough. So that's been my takeaway.
Awesome, appreciate it. Elizabeth, how about you? Any tips, takeaways, homework assignments?
Yes, and one thing I loved about what Lauren shared about in response to my question about the lady that she helped, was that she knew the potential there, and so having a recruiter on your side that is able to bridge that a little bit, made a huge deal for the potential of this woman, because she may not have gotten past the gatekeepers on her own. And so I do think that was a really beautiful thing. I would love just some prayers and thoughts. We're dealing with wildfires here in South Carolina, and my husband, even while we're on here, deciding if we need to get things ready to evacuate. We're not used to this type of thing. We had the big hurricane that we don't normally face. So we're probably one of the least weather related places in the country, so it's really unusual. So thoughts and prayers for North Carolina, South Carolina, as we figure out what we're going to do. So we get the hurricane and the fires.
Posted.
So anyway,
keep us posted.
Definitely,
We had a lot of
keep
family
safe.
go through that in Southern California, and it was scary. So please keep us posted. We hope everything works out.
All right.
we will. We'll get it together, and we're just making decisions now rather than at last minute. So But anyway, thanks for the conversation today. Absolutely fascinating.
I really appreciate all of you. This was not only my first podcast ever that I've been a part of, but obviously first live stream and first time co-hosting. So a lot of firsts for me today. We have a industry leader that we listen to at a lot of our trainings and retrainings at EHS, and her name's Barb Bruno. And one of her biggest things she tells us is do something every day that makes you uncomfortable. So I was nervous going into this, but you all made it just a astounding experience. So thank you for your time and listening to us today. I really appreciate you.
Great job, Lauren. Come
Thank
back.
you. Oh, I'll be back. I'll see you Friday, Laura. I can't wait to hear about mind mapping.
Yay. Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
All right. Audrey, you provided a lot of insights. How about any tips, takeaways, or homework assignments today?
Yeah, I think I was gonna echo Chris. So my my kind of motto for this industry is that the whole industry operates on phone a friend, right? And so everybody here, you know, if I can be your phone a friend because you want some of my nerdy recruiting and culture data any day, happy to talk about it. Obviously, talk about it too much, but I think I want to hammer home that everything that was said today, Chris, Rich, Laura, Lauren, every single one of the tactics and strategies that was shared, we've seen actually work. So I just want to, the message for especially the SMB operators who are feeling overwhelmed and they don't know where to start, there's solutions. It doesn't have to be like this. Like, get out there, call somebody who was on here, call your friends, someone you know has solved the problems you have, and you're not just floating adrift forever. Like, there's ways to fix it.
Definitely. There's a bevy of resources out there for everybody. This community is great because we all try to pitch in and help each other whenever we can. I've been privileged to join you all. Let's kick it over to Laura, and we'll wrap up with Richard with tips, takeaways, homework assignments. And then, Laura, make sure you plug your show a little bit coming up here, the next episode.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. And Audrey, I appreciate your insights. The phone a friend thing was really fun. One of my clients called me. She was going to do a presentation to the board, and she just started freaking out, like, 5 minutes before. And we did some breathing exercises, and I gave her a little pep talk. But I used your term, phone a friend, and how honored I was to be her phone a friend. And I think this community, with kind of the idea of what Shawn's grandfather told him about stay curious, get involved, and ask for help. In my experience, especially men seem to have a really tough time asking for help. And the ones who do it, it's unbelievable how much time they save in just picking up the phone, having the confidence to call somebody, revealing that they don't have it all figured out, and all of us can get better at that. So that's going to be my homework assignment for myself, is to ask somebody for help this week, and instead of trying to go it all alone. And Richard, I'm going to ask you for help on how to be a good mentor. And if I don't get selected as a mentor, I'm going to demand that I get a mentee. I'll go on the wait list in case somebody can't fulfill their commitment. And then Ian, to your point about Friday's show, Jason Berkowitz, both use something called mind mapping. As far as it's a brainstorming technique. Has anybody here done mind mapping?
No.
Okay, just a little bit. So such a fun and effective way to get clear on your thoughts and come up with, a wide variety of potential solutions. So Jason came up with the idea of hosting a show about how to do mind mapping, what you can do with mind mapping. And so I'm really excited to be part of that on Friday. So please join us.
Awesome. And let's kick it to Richard. What do you have to tie this all together?
Oh, thank you, Ian. really interesting and just great to hear different opinions, and well done to the EHS team today. Homework for you guys. You need to write a kick-ass post on LinkedIn on how to get the most out of a relationship with an agency, because you talked about it so eloquently today. Audrey, you've got your rant. Like, find it, clip it, put it on LinkedIn. Like, you'll go more viral than COVID with that. It was brilliant. Like, stats and ranting combined, brilliant. Please post that on LinkedIn. That's your homework. And the final homework is to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I want to hear everything about you working in engineering, because I cannot think of a worse job for you. What were you thinking? I'm going to be ringing you when you've escaped the fire and just probing you on this engineering thing. I'm mind blown, but not by engineering. Thank you very much. See you all soon.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. That'll wrap it up. No one better to do it than Richard Liverman, of course. Feel free to tune in, catch us, and join us every Wednesday or Friday, and on YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever platform works for you. And then this gets repurposed as a podcast afterwards as well. So time.
Thanks for hosting, Ian. Great job.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Nice
All
one,
right,
Ian.
thanks everyone.
Chris, that's an awesome baseball cap.
No, thank you.